Theo wants to know, Theo's going to be a college student in the fall, and they want to know, and especially since you're a professor too, so I'm sure you have a lot to say about this, and I'm pretty sure I already know your position, but what are your thoughts on tuition-free college?
I'm all for tuition-free college education. And, you know, Bernie's plan is to tie tuition-free public colleges and public universities to a Robin Hood tax, to raise the money to pay for that, to pay for tuition-free higher education through a financial transactions tax on Wall Street. And I'm all for that. I would go even further, because Bernie's plan is really limited to tuition-free for public colleges and public universities. I like to look at the GI Bill of Rights as a great blueprint. My dad was served in World War II, and like 16 million other Americans who served in World War II, when the war ended and they came back as veterans, they had the benefits of what was known as the GI Bill of Rights. And that provided any of them with a tuition-free higher education at any university in the United States or in the world, along with living stipends for the 4 years that they were students, sometimes longer than 4 years. I've met folks and I've heard of people who got graduate degrees under the GI Bill of Rights. So it was a very generous program. It created a higher education boom. It meant that that greatest generation was not saddled with debt. So what would it look like to do that today? I've been very much in favor of a national service program. Can make it a voluntary national service program. So when students turn 18, when they graduate from high school, if they will devote 2 or 3 years to serving in a national service program, they would then be eligible for tuition-free higher education at any university in the world, along with living stipends. So what kind of service programs are we talking about? I would model it right on Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal, a civilian conservation corps. During the New Deal, you had, I believe it was more than 3 million young men mostly, of all races, who served in civilian conservation corps camps in the beautiful national parks and national forests. And what were they doing? They were cutting fire lines, clearing underbrush, putting out small fires before they became big fires. And you compare that with today, where we don't have a big national CCC, a Civilian Conservation Corps program. And instead, what do we have? We've got 4 million acres of national forests that are being scorched by forest fires every year now. The fire season seems to be a 12-month season in many parts of the country. And we should allow young men and women to serve the country in a useful capacity like that. I think we can have a sea conservation corps, which would help to clean up not just the oceans, the coastal waters, but the inland waterways. There's all kinds of garbage, pollution, plastics that we read about. There's lots of sea conservation that could go on. The New Deal also had a Works Projects Administration that employed millions of people building up the infrastructure. In fact, Ronald Reagan's father and brother got through the Great Depression working for the WPA. And the WPA during the 1930s, it built schools, hospitals, bridges, tunnels, airports, seaports. We need a WPA that will help rebuild the infrastructure. Things like waterworks, sewage treatment facilities. We shouldn't be turning towards privatization to solve these problems. We should invest public resources. We should put people to work in public works programs. And I'll tell you, the WPA also employed thousands and thousands of Americans who were musicians, artists, and writers working on cultural production during the Great Depression. There's lots of people in this country who are underemployed. The official unemployment rate is really a fairy tale at this point. Millions of people have dropped out of the labor market. They've become discouraged workers. They're tired of looking for work, or they've got 3 or 4 part-time jobs to make ends meet, or they're consultants to make ends meet, but they don't have a full-time job with benefits, and that's what they would like. We need the federal government. This should be the top priority in this country, a Jobs for All program. You know, there's been legislation introduced in the House of Representatives year after year, session after session. My opponent, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, has never co-sponsored the Jobs for All legislation.
No, she wouldn't be able to issue as many payday loans that way. If more people were working, she wouldn't be. You know, she has no incentive to do that, and she's. I think she's maybe as crooked as they get. I mean, I don't think there's many as even in the Democratic Party, which is, that's saying an awful lot.
You know, it was an eye-opener for a lot of folks in 2015. I joined the anti-TPP, the Anti-Trans-Pacific Partnership movement, and was working with the Citizens Trade Campaign here in Florida. And we were trying to get elected representatives, congressmen, congresswomen, and senators to vote against fast-tracking the TPP. It turned out that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the only Democratic House member in Florida to vote to fast-track this agreement. And we started looking at her fundraising record. Well, she had taken $330,000 from corporate interests that were for the TPP. So we started looking even further. You know, you could go to opensecrets.org. The Center for Responsive Politics compiles these statistics from the Federal Election Commission. And we started to investigate and see how much money Debbie Wasserman Schultz had been taking from corporate interests. And it was mind-blowing. Millions of dollars from the biggest Wall Street banks, payday lenders, as you mentioned. Well, those payday lenders, they all have financing that they receive from big Wall Street banks. So Wasserman Schultz doesn't want a full employment program. She doesn't want Medicare for all because she's in the pockets of big pharma, the private health insurance companies. She takes money from private prison companies, and she has supported a private immigration detention center right here in our own district in a town called Southwest Ranches. Issue after issue. She's a drug warrior. She takes money from not just big pharma, but big alcohol, big sugar, fossil fuels. So she pretends to be, you know, a liberal, a progressive, a leader of the resistance against Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, she's just a corporate stooge.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.